The marble floors of Maxwell Corp's headquarters still echoed with the same hollow sound I remembered from childhood. Standing in the lobby after 5 years felt surreal, like stepping into an old photograph where everything looked the same but felt completely different. I adjusted my tailored navy suit, a far cry from the hand-me-downs I used to wear when my father first married Diana Maxwell, making her son Blake my unwanted stepbrother. Now at 32 I was returning not as Sophia Carter, the awkward stepdaughter, but as someone else entirely. Miss Carter. The receptionist looked up, confusion crossing her face. I don't see you on the list for today's annual board meeting. Check again, I smiled. I should be there. Blake's voice carried across the lobby, dripping with the same arrogance he'd perfected since prep school. Is there a problem here? He looked exactly as I remembered, expensive suit, perfectly styled hair, and that smug expression that came from being the Maxwell heir apparent. His steps faltered slightly when he recognized me. Sophia. He recovered quickly, sneering. What an unexpected surprise. Come to beg for another job. The memory stung 5 years ago when Dad died suddenly. Blake had orchestrated my removal from the company. Budget cuts, he'd called it, though everyone knew the truth. The stepdaughter didn't fit into Diana and Blake's vision for Maxwell Corp. Actually, I kept my voice steady. I'm here for the board meeting. Blake laughed, the sound echoing off the marble. The board meeting? That's precious. Sorry sis, but this is for shareholders only. He moved to block the elevator. Why don't you run along and play entrepreneur somewhere else? If only he knew what I'd been doing these past 5 years. While they thought I was failing at starting my own business, I'd been executing the plan Dad had set in motion long before his death. Mr. Maxwell, the receptionist interrupted timidly, there is a listing. It just came through. Miss Carter is dash. Impossible, Blake snapped. I personally approve all attendees. This is a restricted meeting for major shareholders only. I pulled out my phone, opening an email I'd received this morning. Interesting you should mention shareholders, Blake. Have you checked the company registry today? His face flickered with the first trace of uncertainty. What are you talking about? Maybe we should discuss this upstairs? I suggested. The board is waiting after all. This is ridiculous, he blocked my path. Security. Diana emerged from the elevator, her expression souring when she saw me. What is she doing here? Mom, I'm handling it, Blake assured her. I checked my watch. It's 9:58. The meeting starts in 2 minutes. Shall we discuss this here in the lobby, or would you prefer to maintain some dignity and take this upstairs? Diana's perfectly styled hair couldn't hide her twitching eye, a tell I remembered well from childhood. She knew something was wrong. Let her up, Diana said finally. We'll deal with this disruption properly. As we rode up in the elevator, I thought about Dad's last words to me. Be patient, Sophia. Everything is in place. Just wait for the right moment. The right moment had finally arrived. The boardroom looked exactly as I remembered, floor-to-ceiling windows, massive mahogany table, and 12 of the city's most powerful executives waiting expectantly. Their expressions ranged from confusion to curiosity as I walked in behind Blake and Diana. This is a closed meeting, Blake announced loudly. Security will be here shortly to dash. Actually, I interrupted, I believe this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. After all. I smiled, watching Diana's face. A majority shareholder should attend these meetings, don't you think? The room went silent. Blake's sneer froze on his face. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just showing up, it's showing up with receipts. The boardroom's tension could have been cut with a knife as I calmly took a seat at the far end of the table. Blake remained standing, his face fluctuating between shades of red and white. This is absurd. Diana finally broke the silence, her manicured hands gripping the back of her chair. Blake, call legal immediately. I opened my briefcase, removing a thick folder emblazoned with the company logo. Already done. Your legal team received all the documentation an hour ago. I believe Mr. Harrison should be arriving right about. The boardroom door opened and Thomas Harrison, Maxwell Corp's longtime legal counsel, walked in. His expression was grave as he nodded to me. The documents are legitimate, he announced, causing a ripple of whispers around the table. Over the past 5 years, through a series of carefully structured investments and proxy holdings, Ms. Carter has acquired controlling interest in Maxwell Corporation. Blake slammed his hand on the table. That's impossible. We would have known. Every major share transaction requires board approval. Unless, I smiled, those shares were acquired through multiple shell companies, each purchasing just under the reporting threshold. Companies that, as of this morning, transferred all holdings to Carter Global Investments. Diana sank into her chair, her perfectly composed facade cracking. How much? 75%, I stated clearly, watching their faces. Which makes me, effective immediately, the majority shareholder of Maxwell Corporation. The board members shifted uncomfortably. These weren't just any executives, they were Diana's carefully chosen allies, each owing their position to her influence. This is Father's company, Blake's voice shook with rage. You have no right. Actually, I cut in, this was my father's company too. Or did you forget that he was CEO before you and Diana orchestrated his early retirement? The truth hung heavy in the air. Everyone knew how Diana had manipulated her way into both the company and my father's life, positioning Blake as the heir apparent while systematically pushing Dad aside. Mr. Harrison, I continued, please distribute the new organizational charts. As the documents circulated, Blake's face grew increasingly pale. The restructuring plan was comprehensive: new board members, new management structure, and most importantly, new ownership. You can't do this, Diana whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. Can't I? I pulled up the company's financial records on the screen. Shall we discuss the creative accounting that's been happening under your leadership? The offshore accounts. The mysterious consulting fees to shell companies owned by your brother. Several board members suddenly found their phones fascinating, avoiding Diana's desperate glances. Or perhaps, I continued, we should talk about what really happened to my father's shares after his death? The ones that supposedly were sold to cover estate taxes. Blake's hand trembled as he reached for his water glass. He knew exactly what I was referring to: the forged documents, the manipulated transfer records. Those transactions were all legal, he managed. Were they? I raised an eyebrow. The SEC might disagree. In fact, they're very interested in reviewing everything that's happened here over the past 7 years. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Diana's carefully constructed empire was beginning to crumble, and everyone in the room knew it. The choice is simple, I stated, standing to address the board. Either we handle this transition professionally, or we can let federal investigators handle it. Your decision. As if on cue, my phone buzzed, a text from my team downstairs. Everything was in place for what came next. You have 5 minutes to decide, I announced. Choose carefully. The clock on the wall ticked loudly as Diana and Blake exchanged panicked looks. They had no idea that this was just the beginning. The next hour unfolded like a carefully orchestrated symphony of corporate justice. As my team of auditors and security personnel secured the building's key offices, I laid out the extent of my investigation into Maxwell Corp's operations. 7 years of systematic fraud, I announced, clicking through presentation slides. Unauthorized share transfers, manipulated board votes, and of course the mysterious circumstances surrounding my father's death. Blake's face went from red to ashen. You can't prove . Actually, I interrupted, pulling up an email chain on the screen. I can prove everything. Including your late-night meeting with Dad the day before his heart attack. Diana stood up so quickly her chair toppled backward. You're making accusations without . Without what? Evidence. I clicked to the next slide. Security footage appeared showing Blake entering Dad's office that night. The cameras you thought were disabled still recorded to a backup server. Interesting conversation you had with him, Blake. Especially the part about stepping down or facing consequences. The board members were now openly staring at Blake, who had begun to sweat visibly. That's not. I didn't. He stammered. The police have been very interested in reviewing this footage, I continued calmly. Along with the toxicology report I had run on samples from Dad's last medical exam. Fascinating what modern testing can detect even years later. Diana's perfectly maintained composure finally cracked. You little bit . Mrs. Maxwell, Thomas Harrison interrupted sharply. I strongly advise against any further comments without legal counsel present. I smiled, thinking of all the nights I'd spent building this case, gathering evidence, waiting for the perfect moment. Speaking of legal counsel, the FBI agents in the lobby would like to have a discussion about certain offshore transactions. The room erupted into chaos. Board members rushed to distance themselves from Diana and Blake, suddenly eager to cooperate fully with any investigation. "This isn't just about ownership," I announced over the commotion. "This is about justice. For my father, for the employees you've exploited, for every investor you've defrauded." My phone buzzed, a message from security. "The FBI agents are ready, Ms. Carter." Blake made a desperate lunge for the door, but my security team was faster. As he was escorted out, I caught a glimpse of the scared little boy behind the corporate facade, the one who'd always known this day might come. Diana remained frozen in her chair, her perfect world crumbling around her. "You planned this," she whispered. "All these years." "I learned from the best," I replied coldly. "You taught me how to play the long game, remember? All those lessons about patience and positioning." The board members who remained were now looking at me with a mixture of fear and respect. They'd witnessed not just a takeover, but the dismantling of an entire corrupt regime. "As of this moment," I addressed them, "Maxwell Corporation is under new management. Those who cooperate with the investigation will be treated fairly. Those who don't," I glanced at Diana's empty chair, "will face the consequences." Outside the boardroom windows, police lights flashed in the growing dusk. 5 years of planning, of careful manipulation, of playing the grieving, defeated stepdaughter, all leading to this moment. But this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of Phase 2. The next few weeks transformed Maxwell Corporation from the ground up. The media called it the Carter Revolution, a complete corporate restructuring that sent shockwaves through the business world. But for me it was something more personal. Justice served cold and methodically. Blake and Diana's arrests made headlines for days. Maxwell heirs charged with corporate fraud and criminal conspiracy became the talk of every business channel. But it was the follow-up story that really shook the industry. Late CEO's death under investigation, possible foul play. Sitting in my father's old office, my office now, I reviewed the latest forensic audit reports. Each page revealed another layer of their deception, another piece of the puzzle that had led to Dad's death. "Miss Carter." My assistant's voice came through the intercom. "The board members are here for the emergency session." I straightened my father's old photo on the desk, the only personal item I'd allowed myself in this space. "Send them in." The remaining board members filed in, looking considerably more humble than they had 3 weeks ago. Amazing how federal investigations could change people's attitudes. "Thank you for coming," I began, noting how they now hung on every word. "Today we're discussing the future of Maxwell Corporation, or as it will soon be known, Carter Technologies." A murmur rippled through the room at the name change. Symbolic, yes, but necessary. "The preliminary investigation has revealed that many of you were aware of Blake and Diana's activities," I continued, watching their faces pale. "Some of you even assisted them." "Ms. Carter," one of them started, "we were under tremendous pressure. Save it," I cut him off. "I'm not interested in excuses. I'm interested in solutions. Each of you has until the end of the day to submit your resignations or evidence of your cooperation with the federal investigation. Choose wisely." As they shuffled out, my phone buzzed with a text from the prison where Blake was being held. "Your stepbrother is requesting a meeting." I declined. Some conversations weren't worth having. Later that evening, as I reviewed the company's new direction with my team, Thomas Harrison entered with another set of documents. "The toxicology results are conclusive," he said quietly. "Your father was poisoned. They've added first-degree murder to the charges." I nodded, feeling a weight lift that I'd carried for 7 years. "And Diana?" "Cracked under questioning this morning. Blamed everything on Blake. He's not taking it well." Of course she had. Diana Maxwell had always been a survivor, willing to sacrifice anyone, even her own son, to save herself. The next morning I called an all-company meeting in the main auditorium. Every employee, from executives to maintenance staff, gathered to hear the new direction. Maxwell Corporation was built on my father's principles of innovation and integrity, I began. Principles that were betrayed by those who put greed above ethics. Today we return to those values. I announced the changes. Improved employee benefits, ethical business practices, and a profit-sharing program that made everyone stakeholders in our success. But most importantly, I concluded, we're establishing the James Carter Foundation for Corporate Ethics, funded by the recovered offshore accounts. Its first mission? Investigating suspicious deaths in corporate America. The applause was deafening. That evening as I prepared to leave, I found an old photo album in Dad's desk. Inside was a picture of us at my college graduation, both smiling before Diana and Blake had entered our lives. "You were right, Dad," I whispered. "Patient revenge is the sweetest kind." My phone buzzed. Diana's lawyer this time. She was offering to testify against Blake in exchange for leniency. "No deal," I texted back. "Let them destroy each other, just as they tried to destroy my father's legacy." The city lights twinkled outside my office window as I reviewed tomorrow's agenda. Board restructuring, ethical compliance programs, and the launch of our new technology division. Blake had once sneered that the board meeting was for shareholders only. He never imagined that his stepsister would end up owning not just the shares, but the entire game. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just taking back what's yours, it's building something better from the ashes of what they destroyed.